button. So just for the recording, I'll say good morning again and welcome to those that have come on, and welcome, of course, to our wonderful guest speaker today, Diana. And I know some of us have had a few techie challenges this morning, but all good. If you haven't managed to get on, then I guess you're listening to the recording. So a huge welcome to you, Diana, and thank you for your time sharing with us this morning on building a business brand that makes a difference. And I wondered, Diana, if you could, obviously you're going to introduce yourself a bit more, but also tell us about your logo. I love the little story you just told me then as to why you've got a peacock and an octopus on there. So for those of you that don't know Diana, she's Perth-based, and we had the pleasure of having her up here in the Kimberley for our East Kimberley Women's Business Camp. That must have been pre-COVID, eh? Is it nearly 3 years?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Not quite, yeah. So
I think it was April 21, because that's when I met Diana.
Yeah, right. That's right.
In the middle of COVID, Marie, in the middle of COVID.
And so, yeah, some of the lovely photos she's got on the slides here are from the camp. And so over to you, Diana. And yeah, thanks once again for joining us. We look forward to learning from you.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Diana Henderson, and I'm actually in Albany now. So I'm on Menang country down here, Menang Nular country, and learning to love the cold. I was telling Mari that it's 15 degrees is our high today, so we're still in jumpers and all the rest, but it's such a pleasure to be here, and I just love the work that you all do, and any chance I have the opportunity to be a part of it is always just such an encouragement and a blessing to me. So my little logo down there you see has the peacock and the octopus, and the reason why I have a peacock and an octopus is because the peacock represents the way that ideas live in our mind. So when we have these great ideas of inspiration or creativity, whether we're painting or decorating or running our business, and the ideas that come to us, they're beautiful and shimmery and magical like a peacock, and they're perfectly symmetrical and lovely in every way. And then we get on with the work of taking those ideas from our imagination and bringing them into the real world. And when we birth those ideas, they look like octopuses. And that is often very disappointing to us in that creative process. But the trick is that you have to learn how to love the octopus as well, and that the octopus has its own magical qualities and beauty about it. And it's learning to become comfortable in that creative process and know that it's not you, that it's not that you somehow are lacking in some way, that you can't like perfectly create what's in your mind into the real world, because nobody perfectly creates what is in their mind in the real world. And so I use that as an encouragement to show up to your life and to the page and to your business, and just start to learn how to get comfortable with those octopuses. So as we go about today, I hope that you are inspired with all sorts of new ideas, and that you can dream new dreams and have these beautiful, beautiful peacock ideas, but then also be okay when they look like octopuses on the other end. So that's kind of the story behind my logo and kind of my mission as a creative as well. So just really quickly, that's me there. I actually have written a book about creativity called The Origins of Creativity, which that's my book there. And then my kind of overarching kind of ties it all together is Diana Henderson. And so that's where I share weekly writings about the creative process and how do we engage with our ideas in ways that are constructive, but also really healthy for us, because we can really be bullies to ourselves, and we can talk pretty mean to ourselves when we're in that process of creating new things. And it's not just you. Like, everybody I talk to is pretty mean to themselves when they're creating. And so I do a weekly writing of encouragement of just how do we interact and create things that haven't existed before in a way that is good for our mental health, in a way that is encouraging and building ourselves up, and hopefully makes us feel less alone in that process. So that's kind of all over on Diana Henderson. And then the Purpose-Driven Brand is a program that there we go. Sorry, I got muted for a second. So the Purpose-Driven Brand is a program that I've put together to help people and business owners create a brand that is financially beneficial, but also is creating impact for the causes and the communities that they care about. So teaching businesses how to use their brand for good, basically, and use their brand for change. And I know the work that you all do, and I know that resonates with you as well, that you know, as women, we tend to get into business because we're passionate about something. And usually the motivation for monetizing that passion has to do with creating positive change for others. So I don't think I've ever met a woman in business who got into business 100% purely for the dollars. You know, we get into business because we want to pay for our kids' schooling, or we want to have extra funds to help family, or we want to support communities or charities that are important to us, or our ideas of business are there to create change, whether they're for culture or for making a greener future, like a healthier future for humanity. So I find women are amazing advocates in business because we come from such a place of being at the very foundational levels of why we get into business, usually has this really strong heart behind it. And I think we've been sold this lie that somehow makes us less effective in business, or that it makes us less able to monetize our skills and our talents or our product. And I hope after today, when we walk away from this, that you realize that that's not true. And I hope that you can see that actually that very thing can be the most valuable part of your brand and can be the most amazing way of growing your business if you can really reach into that and really start to use that in your messaging. And we're going to go through that step by step. And then lastly, Life is Art Photography is where I take pictures for businesses. So I am a corporate photographer. So in the past, if you've been to any of the camps, I've taken headshots for some of the women. And then I also help businesses capture their businesses in photography so that they can build their websites and social media and all of that. So that's kind of the perspective I'm coming from this morning. And I just want to dig in. So get out your notepads and pens and let's get started. So the first thing that we need to understand is that our brand isn't a logo. So most of the time when we get into business, the first thing that most people think they need, besides maybe a product or a service, is a logo. And we can fall under this trap of thinking that our brand is our logo, but actually your brand is what lives the idea of you that lives in the mind of your customer. So your logo is kind of like your face of your business. So if you think about yourself, like we all have our face that's unique, that is identified. We have our voice that identifies us, but who we are isn't just our face. And in the same way, who your business isn't just your face or your logo. And so if we can understand that when we're building our brand, what we're doing is we're trying to intentionally put out the message, and we're going to tell people what we want them to think about us as a business. So instead of them making a guess, so like, for example, if you were going to have me over for dinner, you could make a guess and be like, oh, I think Diana likes really, really spicy food. So I'm going to make the hottest curry around. And then I come over for dinner and I take 2 bites and I'm crying and I can hardly eat another bite because you made a guess about me and that guess wasn't right. And in our business, people will make guesses or assumptions unless we tell them. And that's what our brand is. Our brand is all of the ways that we tell the market, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what we do. More importantly, this is what we don't do. All of those things, those become our brand. So business owners put a lot of work into developing their brands, but how can you take your brand from being just a great logo to an effective and engaging brand that you can communicate across many platforms? So we're going to talk a lot today. What I've seen in business, especially in micro business, so where it's just one person or maybe 1 or 2 people, is we've come to believe that the only way we can market our business is on social media. And we've bought into this idea that the only way that we can get people to know us is through social media. And I hope you walk away today to see that social media is just one, effective for some brands, but one of many, many, many ways that we can communicate our brand and who we are and what we stand for. But the important thing is that we want to make sure that no matter who we're talking to, we're giving the same message. And if we haven't clarified that for ourselves, then what happens is it kind of becomes like Chinese whispers, where when I'm talking to this person about my brand, I say, oh, this is what I do and this is why I do it. And then when I come over and I talk to this other person, I might tell them a completely different story because I haven't kind of sat down and made some decisions about this is who I am. This is who my business is. This is what we stand for. These are my values. This is my purpose and all these other things. So we're going to talk about those things today so that we can really clarify that so that no matter who we're talking to, no matter what platform they see us on, they're going to hear the same message over and over and over again. Because we have to realize that when we tell somebody about our business, it's kind of like, I like to think about it like driving a nail in the wall. If you take a nail and you hit it one time with a hammer, that nail is just going to like and fall out of the wall. It's not going to stay there. It's not going to hold up what you're saying. And in the same way, our branding, we have to say the same things over and over and over and over again, because we have to keep driving that nail, pounding that nail over and over again so that it sticks in the mind of our customers. So if we only tell them once what we want them to think about us, they're not going to remember it. We have to hit it 12, 15, 20 times, depending on what sort of wall we have to get through their heads, right? So we have to have that same message that we just keep driving over and over and over again. And eventually then when our customers think, or our potential customers think about us, we've told them what we want them to think about us. And then integrity is when what we told them we are and what we can do is then what we actually can do. So branding and marketing, it doesn't need to feel icky. It doesn't need to feel deceptive, because we're telling them who we are. And then in integrity, we're following that up and actually doing and being the things that we say we are. And then that's how we get alignment in business. So brand recognition by potential clients is vital, but what is the best way to create a visual representation on social media and other platforms? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And then lastly, I hope that you walk away and that you've developed a strong brand identity that can become the foundation for your business and marketing. So that's kind of what branding is. So let's go ahead and jump in. So firstly, we need to understand what is the right angle for your brand. So I like to think of your business and your brand, that each brand has a personality. And just like every one of us here on the call has a different personality, every brand has a different personality, you know, and some brands are very straight-laced, are very very polite, right? And they do they always say the right things. Other brands are a little bit controversial, and that's okay. Okay, I want you to be able to be authentic in your brand. So there's a couple of different ways that we can approach this. One is that in your branding, you can be educational. So what I'm doing right now with you guys today is a perfect example of being an educational type brand. I'm here and I want to share with you and teach you and share knowledge in a way that helps you. And even if you never ever buy from me ever, that's okay. You still have gotten benefit from the resource that I'm sharing here, right? However, there might be somebody who just happens to watch this webinar or another webinar. I do webinars all the time, and they happen to watch that webinar and they are like, that information is great, and I have no desire to do this for myself. So I'm going to hire Diana and she's going to do it for me. See how that builds my business? Now, I approach these not with the intention of, oh, I'm going to make money off of every webinar I do. However, every time I get up and I share and I'm being educational, I am clarifying that message to people over and over and over again. And maybe one of you are going to build $1 million business, and in 15 years, you're going to have this huge corporation and you think, oh, we really need some help with our messaging. And I remember this person who could help me. And you think of me. Like, business is a long game. So when we share educational stuff, we need to understand that there'll always be a percentage of people, I call them who want to DIY, meaning they want to do it themselves. They want to take the information and then they want to go off and use that. And that's fantastic. Okay. That's part of my mission. I want to help businesses grow. Right. But you are going to have a percentage of people who listen to what you share. And they're going to go, that's amazing. And I have no desire to DIY this. I have the bucks and I just want to pay somebody to do it for me. And because you've given freely and abundantly with your information, you've built that trust. They know you. They know your brand personality. Your brand becomes very trustworthy because you're saying, I know what I'm talking about. And let me show you why I know what I'm talking about. I know this so well, I have something to teach you. So don't be afraid of sharing your knowledge with other people. Okay? The caveat on that, especially for women, is it's very different to sit in a situation like this and for you to share abundantly your resource. That's very different than for somebody to call you up and say, I really need your help. Can you come over one-on-one and give me all of your knowledge for free? And they're asking you for that. Then that's not good business, right? Now, it may be your very best friend in the whole world, and you might say, look, I really want to help you. This happened. My dearest and closest friend just opened her own business. And I was like, I want to see you succeed. I'm going to come over and we're going to do all of this together because I love you and you're an important person in my life. But she didn't call me and ask for that. Okay. I offered that to her. So just be careful that educational doesn't creep into I'm giving my services away for free. Okay. Have some boundaries around that. The next way that you can have an angle in your brand is being inspirational. So inspirational is taking what you know and inspiring others to then be better because of it. So in social media, people often will use like a lot of quotes in their social media where they find a quote that really resonates with them. That's a way that you can inspire people. Another way that you can be inspirational is kind of like what Natasha does with the She Rose podcast. That's a great example of being an inspirational brand. And that the She Rose podcast is what we would call, I just lost the word. Sorry, 1 second. Being a reporter. So basically what Tash did is she went and found people and then she was like a reporter interviewing them. And so them telling their inspirational story then makes the Kimberly Birds look like an inspirational brand, right? Because you took what one person's inspiration is and you put that next to you, and now you're inspirational too. Does that make sense? So you could go out and find other people who are doing things that you care about in your business. So for example, if your business has a really strong brand personality of being eco-friendly and green, you could go find other people who are doing things that are eco-friendly and green and interview them or ask them, how do you be more green in your everyday life? And then share that knowledge in an inspirational way. And then you're building what your brand's personality is by interviewing them. So that's how we can be inspirational. Or maybe you have your own inspirational story, and that's what's motivated you into this business. Like something's happened in your own life and you've overcome, and in that overcoming, it's put in you this passion and this fire that has then caused you to create this business. That story is something you want to share over and over and over again because it's your foundational why behind why you do what you do. And that's a big part of your brand, and you want to share that with others. And an example of that would be like J.K. Rowling. You know, everybody knows that she wrote Harry Potter, and she had depression and she was a single mom and she was living below the poverty line, but she had this idea and she showed up and she wrote the books, and now she's a billionaire. Like she tells that story over and over again because she wants other people to feel empowered to write and share their stories too. Appreciation. So appreciation can be sharing the wins of other people. So if you have employees, it's a great way to use appreciation in your brand. If you have employees, and you can have like a monthly employee of the month, and you share that on your social media, and you tell people how much you appreciate the people who work for you. That's a great way of building your brand, because as humans, we know that people who show appreciation and generosity to others are usually pretty good people themselves, right? And so by being appreciative, we're building a brand that we are people who value other people. And so that becomes part of our brand as well. Now you could be topical or opinion. So at the WE camp, we had June come and speak with us. And June had done the report for the state of, I think, for Aboriginal women in the community, and she'd done the big government report, and she came and talked to us about that. And that's being a topical or opinion brand. So she was concerned about women, Aboriginal women in community, and how Aboriginal women could be better resourced to make positive change in community. And she got into politics, and she uses influence. That's a very topical or an opinion type brand. So if you are super passionate about something a little bit political, like, I don't want you to necessarily be afraid of that in your branding. Like, you could actually make that the center. You can be a topical and opinionated brand. And, you know, sometimes I think we're afraid of, like, oh, people won't like me on the internet. And we're afraid to share our voice because we might get a little bit of rub back from that. But that rub back is, as long as people are commenting, every time they comment on your stuff, you're getting more airtime and your stuff is getting more reach. So people who are a little bit opinionated and topical, like, yes, there might be a little bit more friction that sometimes comes with that, but that friction actually, in a marketing point of view, gives you more reach. So don't be afraid to share your opinions, and strong ones at that. Just make sure that they're in alignment with the mission of what you're trying to accomplish with your business. Hacks is an internet thing. So hacks are like, how can I show you to do a simple thing better? So like a branding hack, if I came and said, look, I can teach you how to build a logo in 30 minutes, build a beautiful logo in 30 minutes for any brand. And I could do like a whole post on that, or I could do a 30-minute video and I could share it on my social media. That would be a hack. So like in your business, it could be, if maybe you're in ecotourism, you could do a hack of how to pack the 4-wheel drive in under an hour and not forget anything, right? Because that's building you as an authority in your industry. So it's, how do I help you in a way that also makes me look like I'm the like person who knows what we're talking about here? Community is exactly what we have here. Magda Makers is a community brand. So Magda Makers is where you create this community of resources and people who encourage each other. And you can build a whole brand around community, right? And now you all use social media as a way of communicating, but if the social media wasn't there, you would still have community, and you would still have a community that interacts with each other in different ways. You would still show up to things like this. So if you have a business, is there a way that you could build a community around that? Whether it's an online community or an in-person community, then that's a way that you can market and build your brand. And then lastly is promotional. So that's where you do things with other brands, and in doing that, it makes your brand look better. So like, for example, if so I used to own a when I lived in Perth, I owned a co-sharing space. It was a 500 square meters. We had lots of businesses in there. And the very first thing we did is we got Telstra to be our promotional sponsor before we had even opened the doors. And so because people know Telstra, even though they never had heard of the Lab Factory, we're a brand new business in our community. Nobody knew us from, we had no street cred, but people knew Telstra. And so by getting Telstra to be our sponsor, they're like, well, Telstra wouldn't just, Telstra's a big corporation. They wouldn't put their money behind anybody. And so even though we don't know you, we know Telstra, and that promotion then elevated our brand. So is there somebody in your community, and it doesn't have to be, the national corporations. It doesn't have to be Telstra and like big corporations. It could be another business that's really well known in your community, but you could maybe partner with them and run an event, or you could partner with them and do a webinar together, or maybe you could put your product into their brick and mortar store or office. So building your brand through promotion is where you find somebody who has a bigger following, more brand recognition, whatever it is, and then you partner with them so that then elevates you. And the caveat is that you want to make sure that you partner with people who have a similar values as you do. Okay. And we're going to have time for Q&As at the end. I promise not all of the slides will be this long. So what is the right content for your brand? So we've talked about, we've talked about the angle. So how do you do that? So there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. I love to write, so I wrote a book, okay? And people are like, oh my gosh, you wrote a book. Actually, writing a book is not that difficult to do. It's more of an endurance thing, that you just write a bunch of little things and you show up and you write all the little things, and then eventually you put them all together in a book and you sell the book. And it sounds really hard, but it really isn't. And when you have a book, people go, oh, well, you must be an expert on this topic because you've written a book about it. Okay. And a book doesn't necessarily have to be, 300 pages. Like a friend of mine, she does a book every year as an end of year journal. And it's a tiny little thing. I think it's probably maybe 50 pages. It's A5. And it's just, she basically writes a paragraph and then it asks you a bunch of questions that have a bunch of blank spaces that you fill in. And then you turn the page and there might be a beautiful quote on one page, and then you turn the page and maybe she might write another little paragraph and a couple questions. So books can be workbooks too. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this big, huge behemoth thing. It can just be stories or a collection even. You guys could make a Magda Maker book and each person write one chapter about your story and business. And then all of you can be like, I'm a published author. My business has been published in this book, and then people look at that and they're like, wow, this brand has credibility, like they're in a book. And so you do things like that because it helps to then build credibility. You can do webinars like what I'm doing right now. So you could say to your community, I'd like to do, maybe you do bush medicine, and you could do a 30-minute webinar where you're just going to talk about one certain bush medicine that's in season right now and how you can use that in your home and for the health of your family in different ways. Okay, that's then building your credibility in your business. A workbook. So for a long time, I had a free download workbook, which is about building a legacy brand. And I just created a document. I think the whole thing was maybe 20 pages, but most of it was graphics, like half a page would be a photo and there'd be a couple questions. And I created a workbook. And then if somebody signed up for my email list, then they would get sent that workbook. And so that was building my email list. And then again, it's building me as an authority and branding. So you could make your own workbook, and it could be 4 pages or 5 pages. It doesn't have to be this big, huge document. It could be 5 recipes that uses bush food in your kitchen, right? It could be a really simple thing that you give to people, and it's a promotional tool that helps build your authority and your brand. You could run a workshop. So you could hire a hall for a couple hours, or even see if there's a local business that will let you, that wants to support the community, that will let you use one of their rooms for a couple hours. And you could do a really low fee workshop to begin with. So the workshop, you don't want to make it too expensive, because the purpose of the workshop is to build your name and your brand. So you want to get people there. Okay. You could then have that space, and you could be like, let me teach you a skill, and we're going to do it together in community in this workshop. Or if you're a teaching educational brand, you could invite people to come together and teach them and show them something how to do it. So that's another type of content. Now, social media is something you can do, and it is important. And I think Tash and I talked about maybe we'll do another webinar in the new year, specifically around social media. The important thing with social media is that you want to have a really clear message. And when we're going to talk about visual branding at the end, it's really important on social media that your visual brand is the same over and over and over again. So we'll kind of circle back to that a little bit at the end. But social media is a great way to connect. The most important thing about social media is remembering that the first word in social media is social. So if somebody interacts with your content, then you need to interact back, okay? Social media isn't an echo chamber where you're like, hey guys, look at me. Hi, look at my business. Like, you're not going to get a lot of traction from that. But if you're in there commenting, oh, I love this, thanks for sharing with me. Or you go to other people's page, like whenever anybody likes my page, I immediately go to their page and I find things to like and comment on, because it's social. We're supposed to interact. And the more you make it that social, that's how you build your business on social media. You can't just be like, look at me, because you won't get that traction from social media. Live events. So is your local council doing a Christmas pageant or a Christmas float or like a parade, like anything like that? Are there other live events that are already happening that you could maybe approach and say, is there a way that I could like participate in some way as my business? Or you could run your own live events. So this is what Natasha does when she runs the camps. Those are live events, right? And they build her business and they build her brand recognition. And they're a great way for people to build your customers who are going to like, I think customers that come to your live events, I like to think them as like your ride and die customers. Like they're the ones who are going to be with you forever because they've spent this real intense quality time with you. So live events are definitely a great way to build your brand. And then cross promotional. So that's where what we talked about before, which is where you find another brand. So like, for example, if Natasha's running her live event, but then your business says, look, we are a catering company. Can we provide all of can you use us to provide the food for your camp? And can we put up a sign behind the serving table with our logo on it? Okay, so you're still getting paid for doing the catering. So you still get a job out of it, but you're also then promoting your business to other people. And you could say maybe at the end, the very last day, could I stand up for 5 minutes and just share maybe a few of the other services I could help other people out with? That's a way of building your brand as well. So who are the right brands and businesses to affiliate? So if you're starting to do that cross-promotional, it's important to make sure that their brand matches yours. So like, for example, if you're a family values centered brand, right, you're not going to maybe cross promote with the local lingerie shop, right? Because you have one's an edgier brand and you're a family centered brand, right? So you want to make sure that your brand aligns with the same group of people. Now, they might not be exactly the same, but there's a core value that's the same between them. And I think sometimes we think that all brands have to be really straight-laced, family values centered, but that's not true. That may not be your brand, especially if you're that like political, topical, where you have something to say and you want to see change and you're passionate about this. You might have to be a little bit edgy to get that message through. Okay. And so you don't have to be afraid of that. What you do have to have is integrity and alignment. So if you say, this is something, if you say I'm super passionate about being an eco brand, let's say, but then all of your product is plastic and you're using production methods that aren't good for the environment, and do you see what I mean? That there's a disalignment between what you're saying and what you're doing. That's where the problems start. So you can be edgy, you can be political, but you need to make sure that what you're saying here is in alignment with what you're doing here. So do you need to stir the pot a little bit? So I have 5 kids. One of my kids, she was born a pot stirrer. Like, she will stir the pot every single time she gets the chance. And that's just who she is. Like, no amount of parenting is ever going to fix that. And so you might be that person, like you may be that personality that you came into this world and you are here to stir the pot and make things better, right? And I think people who are that personality, especially in business, can feel like they're just constantly like shoving themselves into this box. And what I would say to you is be professional and be who you are. So if you came into this world stirring that pot, then you go stir that pot and you use it for people to hear your voice, and you use it and you say what you mean and mean what you say, and don't be afraid of that, because you will have a tribe of people that will be attracted to that, and they will join you in that mission and that cause. So don't be afraid of that. And same with pioneers. Like when we opened the lab factory in Rockingham, like Rockingham is a bit behind the times as far as Perth suburbs go. Like, it's very, very blue collared. It's a military community. Like, it definitely is not known as being this eclectic, creative place, right? And then we come in and our brand is like orange and pink and splatters of colors, and we're about creativity and community and collaboration. And we were such a pioneer in that community because they'd never seen anything like that in that business community before. And it was hard yakka, like paving that way. But in doing that, we empowered so many other people and businesses to flourish. And same goes with you. Like, you may be a pioneer in what you're trying to do. Maybe nobody's ever developed the product that you're selling or the service that you're selling, or maybe your family's never had somebody go into business in your family before, and you have people who don't understand that. So if you are in that pioneer place, I would say that the caveat is to make sure that you have people around you who understand and can support you in that. And that's where I think Magda Makers is such an amazing resource, because you have that, those people around you. And if there's other people who are pioneers as well, you know, there's an old saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And if you are a pioneer, then you need others to go with you. So find other businesses in your community that have a similar passion, and then you start pioneering together and you start supporting each other. You could go political. So get to know your local politicians, and if it's appropriate for your brand, support those politicians in a public way, okay? Or if there's a political cause that you're super passionate about, like use your brand to then talk about that political thing, and find other people who have a similar interest in that political focus and align with them. Some brands are known for just being steadfast. So these are the brands that are like, who say, oh, we've been here since 1952, right? They've been in your community forever. And they're great brands to affiliate with because everybody knows them. They've been there forever. They're known, they're liked, they're trusted. People depend on them. And so by affiliating with them, then your brand is seen as being known and liked and trusted as well. Don't be afraid of trendy. So maybe there's something trendy and it just really, there's something about it that aligns with your brand right now. Like ride that trend and find other people who are doing that. The caveat with this is just making sure that you have your own authentic message that will outlast the trend as well. And then lastly, just fun, high energy. You know, some brands are just a hoot. Like they're not there to change the world. They're not there for politics. They're not there for these like deep, meaningful, changing reasons. They're there because they want to have fun. And that's okay. Like if your brand is about sharing joy with the world, Lord knows the world needs joy right now. So if that's what if you are a joyful, high energy person who loves to party and loves to see people having fun, then find other brands that are like that and collaborate with them and throw a big event, you know, do a workshop, do something that's fun and high energy. Like there is a place for you in the market as well. And then lastly is who are the right people to co-brand with. So you can find celebrities, like there might be a local celebrity that you could partner with that everybody knows, right? You could ask them if you could maybe do a live on their Instagram page, right? You could find ways to work with those people that everybody knows, especially if you're that fun, high energy brand. Celebrities are a great way to brand yourself. Industry leaders. So people who are in your industry who maybe you've learned from, right? You could approach the people that you've learned from and say, is there a way that maybe I could share something of my business with your people, with your community? If you have a product or a service, you could find educators. So that could be teachers, principals, those sorts of educators, but it could also be social workers or industry educators, right? So not all educators are teachers. So you can find people who are already in that field. So if your brand is an educational brand, then you find other people who are educators, and then you find a way to collaborate with them. Get to know your local politicians. It's really important because they know strategy about what's going on that you might not know yet. And so, like, for example, by having a good relationship with one of my local politicians, when we went to get a grant to start a community cafe, that politician, like, they went to bat and talked up our grant, which meant we got the grant and we were able to have our community cafe. So politicians are good because they know the right people to talk to, and they can advocate for you when the time comes. Influencers, if there's people on social media who have influence, you could send them your product and say, can you use my product, and then share a review on your page with your people and your following. That then gives your brand credibility. Community leaders, the people that are already respected in your community, you want to talk to them and get to know them, and then find ways that you could then partner with them in a way that grows your brand and your business. And then thought leaders, they're the people who are kind of like the pioneers. They're the ones who are like, we can do this, we could do things differently or better. And lots of people are listening to them. Okay, they have the ears of the people. And so you could say, I have a service or I have a product that could help with this. Is there a way that I could share that with your community? So those are the ways, those 4 things. I'll just very quickly go through them. So what is the right angle for your brand? What is the right content for your brand? Who are the right brands and businesses to affiliate with? And who are the right people to co-brand with? So that's what your brand actually is. And so just to kind of wrap everything up, because I know most people come to these things and they kind of come with thinking, but I want to know how to have a good logo, and I want to know how to have a really good visual presence. So this is what we call visual branding. So I just wanted to end with, how do we make our face of our brand? So that's what our visual branding is. Our visual brand is our face of our brand, but all of these other things are the actual brand. And so this is a client of mine, and I just wanted to show you, it's actually a very simple formula to have a really consistent visual brand. And she went through my purpose-driven branding program, and we put together all of her brand. So her brand is Laughter Skills. So when you build a brand, a visual brand, it's actually as simple as this. So you have a logo, right? So this is her logo, Go Laughter Skills. And then you have your fonts. So I recommend no more than 3 fonts, but preferably 2. So I like to have your header font, which is kind of a little bit, can be a little bit fancier, but it still needs to be very readable. Then you have your header font, which I like to use the same font that I use for my body text, but just either bolded or full caps. So see how these fonts are the same? It's just that this one is bold and it's all in full caps rather than having the smaller letters as well. So you need your 3 fonts there. And then you need your brand colors. Okay, so you want to have 3 main colors, and then your neutral one. So this is the one that you use for the text of your paragraphs, and then 1 extra neutral one. Now these little letters here look very intimidating, but they're very easy to get. And if you're having a problem getting these, this is called your hex codes, and I'm being a little bit technical. If you're having problems with this, you can just email me your colors and I will find your hex codes and email them back to you. But this is what designers use so that they know that it's this exact shade of red. So EE3929, no matter what computer I use, if I use that hex code, I will get this exact shade of red. And why hex codes are important is because things like your accountancy program will let you put your hex codes in so that all of your invoices have your colors in them. If you use Canva to make like social media graphics, you can put your hex codes in so that you're always using that exact same shade of color, okay? I know that's a little technical, and if you need help with that afterwards, you can email me and I'll make sure I can get your exact ones for you. But if you have just this for your visual brand, if you have a logo, your fonts, and your 3 colors, right? Your 3 main colors and your text color. That's all you need to begin with to have a brand, a visual brand that will look the same across all of your social media and your website and the things that you print and your flyers. And you just keep using these things over and over again. So what we did with, and I want to show you how it all works together. So see how she had her 3 colors right here. And then when we went to take her photos, we made sure that she incorporated those colors into her photos. So there's the orange juice. She printed up a fake document that had her stuff on it, right? Here's her colors there and there. And then we put people in her photos that looked like the clients she wanted to attract. So her business is she does language learning. So she teaches German, French, Italian, and English. And she does it online. And she uses laughter yoga as a way to help that information stay in people's brains at the end. And so this guy here, who happened to be her husband, but this guy here looks like the sort of customers that she wants to attract to her business. She also does like corporate workshops. So we put people in her photos that look like the people she wants to have in her business. And you can see how she's wearing yellow. She put the yellow book in the background, and then she made these little dummy pages. So see how all of a sudden her brand visually is all coming together. I wouldn't have worn blue nail polish, but that's all right. But she's wearing an orange shirt. There's her Laughter Skills logo. See how she's like put it everywhere. She's wearing a yellow dress. And then that's her corporate headshot. And then these are her more casual ones. So this was kind of about like her get to know me behind the scenes, a little bit more casual. And then you can see this was her Instagram before she worked with us. And then this is her Instagram after she worked with us. And see how just having her fonts, her colors, and her logo, how all of a sudden when I look visually, her brand is super recognizable straight away. So now when I'm scrolling through Instagram, I immediately, when I scroll up and I see her stuff, I automatically know, oh, hey, that's Katrin's stuff. Because she's built a visual brand that she's just done the same thing over and over and over again that's made it super recognizable. So your visual brand is your face. And once you decide what your visual brand is, it's actually super boring. Like you use the same fonts, you use the same colors, you use the same things over and over and over and over and over again, and you never ever change it unless you do a full rebrand. And I would say you would use this for at least 3 years without touching it before you would change anything at all. Right? And you would use that over and over and over and over again, because that consistency, remember what I said about the nail, you want to drive that nail over and over again so much that people are like, oh, that's this brand's face. So that's kind of how you bring the visual part of your brand, but then the words and the things that you talk about and say and communicate in all of this, that's all of the other stuff. That's all of the things that we talked about, that, you know, why you are doing what you're doing, your story, are you being educational, all those other things. That's all your brand. This part is just the face that then makes it so that people are like, oh, I know that face and I want to hear what they have to say. So that, my dear friends, is how it all comes together. So I've talked so much, but I wanted to get you guys a chance to ask questions, and yeah, let's go from there. Tash, do you want to?
Yeah, that was great, Dinah. So much great information there. And I think if our businesses here in the Kimberley could actually realize the importance of what you've shared and actually adopt it, they would see enormous, you know, interaction, growth, and interest in their businesses. So this is sort of an area that people haven't quite realized. See you, Yisa. Thanks for joining us. They haven't quite realized how valuable, you know, that consistency is, a high quality, beautiful, clear image, a little bit of storytelling, something educational, something inspirational. You know, we certainly try to, you know, use all of those little tactics in our social media posts, you know, to try and cover as many bases as we possibly can with people out there in our community. And people love stories, but a lot of our mob, they tell stories in person, but they don't necessarily know how to write a story well. So that's a little bit of a, you know, if that doesn't come natural, you got to practice it a little bit. To get it, and then you'll get, you know, you don't have to put a lot up there, just like 1 or 2 paragraphs, and basically you've told somebody something that they don't know.
Or I think if you're not good at writing, then there's a really wonderful fix, is that you just have to get comfortable with your face being on camera. And I know that that's really intimidating, but you don't have to write your story. You can hold up your camera and video yourself saying, like,
oh, that's harder. That's probably harder for people. They're
for some
people to do videos, and that's probably harder. But they're both out of comfort zone for our cohort. You know, the women that we're working with. But if people can just sort of branch out a little bit and force themselves, so to speak, to sort of get into the space a little bit more, I think they'll see great returns on it. I don't know what other people are thinking or what they're hearing.
Yeah, I love the simplicity there of the visual branding at the end. Like, you know, your three types of fonts, your hex colors, and when you showed at the end the Instagram page, the before and after, like, it's just such a difference. And so my question that I had is, like, I loved the slide about what is the right angle for your brand. So can a brand have 2 to 3 elements to it, and what is too much, you know?
Absolutely. I would say that first of all, he who chases 2 rabbits catches none. So when you're just starting, choose 1 rabbit. Like, just choose 1 and you catch that rabbit first. So if you're gonna, focus on 1 and get really good at, and same with social media platforms. Like, you do not have to be on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and Substack and Twitter, like, you do not have to be on 7,000 different social media. It's like, pick 1.
Amen.
And just do that one really good. Now, the important thing is to pick the platform, not that you love the best, but the platform where your potential customers love the best.
Yeah.
So if you are selling a product, then you want to be on Instagram. Okay. if you are selling a professional service, I hate to tell you this, but you need to be on LinkedIn. And I know LinkedIn can be a little bit like daunting, but just show up on it, you know? If you're selling to teenagers, you're not going to get them on Facebook. Like, they don't live there, right? My teenagers are like, oh, Facebook is old people's social media, right?
Yeah.
So even under 20, under 30s, they're not on Facebook. They don't go there. They don't hang out there. So you want to find whatever platform, whatever rabbit you choose, be smart about it and choose the one where the people that you want to connect with your business are most likely to be, and then go there.
It's great advice. Thank you. Denise, do you have a question? Han?
I don't have a question, but it is very interesting, the whole conversation and listening to you, Diana. For myself, I've had a business a few years ago, and I have still kept my logos, my brand, as we talk about, and I still have the templates and whatever. So I was actually running it. I used to set up at the markets, at the brew markets, and had a few things going on. But yeah, it was interesting. It took me a while to find the colors, especially the colors when you came up with the colors. So mine started off as this dingy old green. And I think my idea, when you talk about meaning in your, what the purpose is of what you're trying to do is, I think my story came about, I think it would have been in 2005, 2006, when I thought about it, was thinking about the idea. And, you know, I was sitting down in my brother's older house, and I saw this documentary. Remember that little boy that had this idea about the Mad Dogs in the Northern Territory, the Mad Dogs brand? And it was a child. It was a disabled boy, and he used to love the dogs that run around in the community, and he came up with the ideas of Mad Dogs, and he used to do all these paintings, and he used to, you know, and it became a big hit, and that's where I got my inspiration from. And
Wow.
It was weird, because then after that I kept thinking, I want to do something like that. I think, you know, when you struggle and you know, the lifestyle you live, you kind of look for better things in life and trying to move forward and better yourself, and not that you want nice things, but you want to be comfortable, and like you said, you want to make your kids, you know, build a legacy for them, because you see the struggles you go through, and you don't want to leave them behind with basically nothing. But you know, in saying that, sitting down, looking for ideas, and there was this little jasmine tree outside my brother's house, and there was 2 black thongs sitting under there, and that's where the idea came up from, black thongs. And I created it, and I created the logo, the pictures, and I remember doing extensive work, doing, you know, going to the school and borrowing screens and the you know, the screen, what do they call it, screen printing. That's what I was doing. So cutting out and experimenting with colors. And then I left it for a while, because I thought, oh no, I can't do this, it's too hard. But then the idea came back to me, and when I moved to Broome, and I thought, oh, I want to do it again, I want to pursue it in a different direction. So I did approach Morgul, Many Rivers, so that's where I got my help from, and I gave them my logo, and they sent it off to the printers, and we worked extensively with finding the right colors, finding the right design, until finally I decided, yep, that's the one I want. So I'd like to show it to you, Diana.
Yeah, I love that.
And I'll send it through to you, and just to get your ideas and your feedback and your thoughts around. But this is something that I've really been thinking about it and wanting to start it again, because and I think my brand, when you think about finding that space, you know, tagging onto people that you feel you're on the same wavelength. I thought mine would be more to do with surfing, you know, beach, that sort of thing. Because the guy that did the printing for me, and he did them on thongs, like slippers, the double pluggers, so to speak. He used to do some work with rip curl.
Yeah.
So he saw my idea and thought, wow, this is I like the design, it looks awesome. So he was the one that, you know, he distributed all these thongs, and I ended up selling them in the market. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. But I'd love to start it off again, because it's always, every time I go at home at night, I think about it. I always thinking about it. I'm thinking, what a waste, you know, to just let it sit there.
I love that you have already started thinking about like rip curl, and because that is exactly what we just talked about today.
Yeah.
Is that like you have this good idea, but then how can you then like cross promote it? And there's so many businesses in Australia that right now, like the iron is hot, right? There's so many businesses in Australia that want to partner with Black and Indigenous artists in product spaces. Are you on Instagram?
No, I'm not, but I did, going back to Facebook, and it makes sense now. Maybe I need to move away from there. But I did set up a page, and it, you know, all I just see is views, and I don't interact. So I was
gonna say there's she's in Melbourne, but Yarly Creative, I follow her. She's an Indigenous artist, and she's done an amazing job of using that to then translate to products. So like prints, like posters and stickers, but then also like she's had her stuff put onto clothing, and like Ozpost mail out satchels, those sorts of things. So I think with your one, the idea of a surf brand seems to resonate really well. And I would say just be really bold. Like when, like just as an example, like when we went to Telstra, we had a meeting with them. We just set the appointment, walked in, did our pitch, asked for 30 grand. And they fitted out all of the technology for the entire space and provided all of the Wi-Fi and communications for 2 years for free.
Wow, that's amazing.
On them. Yeah. And they and the only thing that we had to do in return was put a Telstra logo sticker on the front window and in one of the rooms. That is all we had to do in return. Because they wanted their presence to be, they were trying to break into Rocking here. So I used that story. Like I was a mom with 5 kids. Like I was just starting out. We never started a co-sharing place before, like, you know, but we just went into Telstra and said, this is what we want. Can you do it? And they were like, and then they ended up actually providing way more than that. So I share that story is to be bold. So if you're like, I want Rip Coral and Billabong to stock my thongs with my design, then, you know, find out how you get a hold of product development at Rip Curl and Billabong and say, this is why I'm passionate about it. This is why I'm doing it. And this is how you can partner with me.
Yeah,
because
I also did some just messing around, put some of my logos on t-shirts, like fishing shirts, like bikinis. This is just mucking around, not actually selling these things. But I thought, wow, they look awesome. I love the colors. I'm happy with the colors, Indigenous colors, but it's got my own. Everything's totally mine. I own it all. My artwork, so I started off with thongs, but I think I wanted to move further and try it on the clothing. And I think that's because I I can say I did try them on thongs. So I think I'm hungry now to go further and try on t-shirts, just surfing clothing, fishing shirts, all that sort of thing.
Well, Tash, Tash, Katie Zanich,
Yep.
She works at Roxy. So that
Yep.
might be a contact where you could do like a little connection.
Yeah.
And just because she designs Roxy's hats and she does apparel design
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Roxy. So that's a connection we already have that we could hook you up with.
Yeah, yes.
Well said.
So that's wonderful. Thank you. That would be a great start. Yeah, I've still got my banner, the banner that was created for me to put on the shade. So it's still
Good.
sitting at home. And I had business cards. So yeah, it was all happening. But then just personal stuff came up and I stopped for. I had a little boy with me, my son, who had some issues. So yeah, I kind of went away from it, stepped away from it for a little while. But I think I'm in a position now to start it up again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Denise, it's so great to connect with you here and see you online and interested and, keeping the
Yeah.
conversation going. That's fantastic. So,
Yep. No, thank
Um,
you to Tasha for, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I first seen you guys, it was Facebook, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then I thought,
Yeah.
wow. And then everything just started bubbling again. And I thought, oh, I want to get back into it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
wonderful. Well, we'd love to support you. Ladies, I'm
Thank
going to
you.
have to actually run because I've got a 10 o'clock meeting and I'm not even prepared for it. But Diana, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, guys. I love what you guys are doing. And I am so proud of all of you from very far away.
Yeah, and we
Yes.
love your support. But you guys continue to feel free to have a conversation. I'll hop out now, but I will talk with you again later, Diana.
Okay. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
everybody.
No worries.